wonderful Sunday morning. We're so glad you decided to join us, whether you're here on Zoom or you decided to join us on the live stream or you decided to join us later in the week. We're so glad, whatever you can join us. We're so glad that you're here. We're happy that you decided to be curious and to wonder what it is we're doing here. Because today we're going to be talking about something really different. So I know that for those of you who are new to Unity, this might be something you already know, or maybe something you don't already know about. But today we're going to be talking about the topic of channeling. Now, there is a reason we're going to be talking about that, is because the book that we have chosen for our yearly Faith in Action program. So for those of you who are not familiar with Faith in Action, it is a book study and celebration and an artistic endeavor where we all get together and we're all on focusing on the same thing and evolving in the same way, and in just kind of a fall celebration for us to be able to celebrate spirit in our own unique ways. So we've decided this year to focus on the book Understanding Your Soul, The Channeled Wisdom of Jesus by Christine M. Bush. So the whole world has their own understanding of what channeling is. So whether they believe it is something woo-woo or something that they're familiar with or something that is scary or something that they have no idea what it is, we're going to be talking about what that is. What is channeling? And what does it mean to channel or to become a channel? It is very much it is a religious and a spiritual endeavor, but it also is a non-religious thing. So we're going to be talking about all those aspects this morning, and we're going to be talking about what that means. So when you do get your book to be able to go into Faith in Action, which starts in October, you'll have a really good understanding, or at least a clue as to what it means to be a channel. Okay, I would like to go over the announcements today. So we have sandwich making that happens next Saturday at South Tacoma Surge. And South Tacoma Surge is at 54th and South Tacoma Way. So it's Saturday, September 13th, which is at 11 a.m. So we all meet there. There's parking in the back. You get together and we make sandwiches and sack lunches for the unhoused. And then they're taken to Nativity House where they're distributed, so people have these takeaway lunches that they can take with them as they move around and find their space in the world during the day. So it's a great opportunity to have a lot of outreach and connect with each other in person and to just give back, because we know that as the weather gets more difficult, as it starts to rain more and as the fall sets in, it becomes harder for them to get resources. So we want to be able to share that. So on next Saturday, the 13th at 11 a.m., we're going to meet at Surge at 54th and South Tacoma Way in Tacoma. And you could just enter in the corner entrance right on South Tacoma Way. And it works out really well. And it takes us about an hour and a half. Doesn't take hardly any time at all. So if you're interested in that, you can contact me at Lori@unityoftacoma.org. And I can help you get situated and visit us that day so you can be part of that team. I also would like to remind you, if you want to be part of Faith in Action and the artistic endeavors that we are doing, we do have a form that I have set up for people who want to sign up to have artwork for the week. And so what's going to happen is that you create an artwork based on our weekly theme in the book that we're studying. And then that artwork is displayed on the Sunday that you are scheduled for. So it helps me to be able to display your artwork behind me. You'll be able to see it and to be able to share what it is that you feel in your heart and in your soul, what that topic means to you. And there is no right or wrong way to do this. You can do a art piece, you can do watercolor, you can do crochet, you can do needlepoint, whatever you are drawn to do. We are open to your artistic endeavor. And so what happens is that you will be photographing your piece of art so we can display it on our Zoom on that Sunday. So if you have any questions about that, please go ahead and contact me. I would be happy to help you. And I'm going to, for those of you who are here today, I'm going to put the link for the form in the chat. So very easy, very simple. All righty. So let's move on. I think that's all of my announcements for today. So let's move on into the service where we're going to go into the prayer for protection. So let me share my screen with you. And the words are on the screen for you for those people who do not know the prayer. Let's say it together. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. And wherever we are, God is and all is well. So as we're sitting in this state of meditation, let's go deeper and go into prayer. And as we go into prayer, we go into a space where we are connecting with that source, that spirit that flows through us, that's always present within us. It's that quiet, still space where all the information is that you need to be able to be the greatest you is always there. And you can connect with that at any time. And when you're connecting with this space within you, with this source of spirit, you become an open channel for all of the wisdom and the knowledge and the experience that you need to be able to move forward and to express yourself fully in this world. The idea of channeling comes down to connecting with spirit, connecting and being open to the wisdom and to the voices and to the knowledge. And it is just as simple as going within, getting quiet, and listening with your heart, listening with your ears, listening with your mind. And so as we sit in this space today and we learn these new concepts and ideas and these new phrases that are put to things that we already know, we're just learning new ideas and new ways of expressing. We say thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to learn. Thank you for this opportunity to stretch us, to pull us into an evolutionary state where we are more than we were before we got here. So with gratitude, we say thank you. Thank you for all who are interested, those who are here to connect, those who want to learn and evolve. And so it is. Amen. All right. We have an affirmation for today that goes specifically with our topic for today. And it's on the screen. Our affirmation for today: the presence of spirit speaks through me, as me, and around me. I am a living channel of divine love, wisdom, and truth. Let's say that again. The presence of spirit speaks through me, as me, and around me. I am a living channel of divine love, wisdom, and truth. I do have a reading for today, and it is not a spiritual reading per se. It is more of a defining reading. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with channeling, it's going to kind of give you a little bit of a definition from more of a scientific worldview. The article is "What is Channeling?" It's by Helena Wahhabi, and she's the director of research at the Institute of Noetic Sciences. You can find this article at noetic.org. And she talks about what it means to channel. And her expertise is that she is a researcher, a scientist, a naturopath, but she's also a channeler. And so she has written a book, and she talks about this widely, about what it means for her to channel. So I want to share that with you and what it is that she wrote in this article. And it's not the entire article, so if you're interested in that, go to noetic.org and you can find it there. All right. What is channeling? The definition, according to her, is channeling is the process of revealing information and energy that's not limited by our conventional notions of space and time, that it can appear receptive or expressive. And that was found in her book, The Science of Channeling. So when we are channels, I'm just going to put in here, this is not part of a reading. When we are channels, we are receiving information from a source that is not limited to space and time. It's always there. It transcends time, transcends space. And that's why when I say we're here together on Sunday, but when you come during the week, we're still connected. It's because we're connected beyond space-time. All right, going back to the reading. How common is channeling? She says, not only are channeling abilities found in perfectly healthy people, because I say that perfectly healthy because a lot of people think that it's a mental health issue, but the experience of channeling is actually quite common. The Institute of Noetic Sciences surveyed scientists, engineers, the general public, and members about their channeling experiences. And they were surprised to find that of the 900 participants that they spoke to, a whopping 90% had at least one channeling experience in their lifetime. This suggests that channeling experiences are very common. In fact, a number of scientists put out a survey each year to gather information on the number of Americans that believe in paranormal phenomena. What's interesting is that this number has increased year over year. One overarching theme in parapsychology research is that the more we believe in a phenomena, the more likely we are to experience them. This could account for the growing number. That being said, some channeling experiences are more common than others. I think of channeling as being like a spectrum. On the subtler side, people experience a clairempathy or claircognizance, lucid dreaming, and telepathy. Somewhere toward the middle are precognition and mediumship. And at the far end of the spectrum are rarer experiences like trance channeling, geomancy, psychic healing, pyrokinesis, and levitation. How does channeling work? All of parapsychology hinges on the idea that consciousness is non-local and fundamental. Therefore, everything is interconnected. It's as though we can all tap into the consciousness larger than the one we experience in our day-to-day lives. It also appears that our ability to tap into the consciousness are limited by external stimuli. This is why meditation is often used to cultivate intuitive abilities. It's about learning how to shut out the noise. Where does channeling come from? We don't understand all the mechanics of channeling yet, and we're not sure where the information is coming from. Here are 6 possible sources of channeled information. The unconscious mind. Channeling may give people permission to allow their latent talent to rise to the surface and be expressed, like the cases where ordinary people suddenly develop extraordinary abilities, like sudden savant syndrome. Our transpersonal self. Transpersonal aspects include the intuitive, creative, and higher aspects of the self. These are the aspects of consciousness that go beyond the part of us that identify as I. Psi, that's PSY. For example, in the case of a medium may not actually be channeling a discarnate entity. They may be telepathically retrieving information from the loved one who sought the medium out, typically called a sitter. Now I'm going to go through that in just a minute. Super psi. In addition to getting information through the sitter, a medium may also get information through clairvoyance, claircognizance, clairaudience, precognition, etc. Psychic reservoir. Imagine that every moment in time is stored in a library. We call this psychic reservoir. Some people, I'm going to put in here, maybe the Akashic records, if you've ever heard of that. And then this idea that the information can be accessed through a repository of everything that has ever happened and will ever happen. It's like a library. Channeling entities. Finally, there is the most obvious possibility, which is the channeler are actually channeling an entity. Channelers themselves hold various beliefs about where the information comes from. Those that practice mediumship believe that they are communicating with deceased people. Some channelers believe they channel non-human entities like angels and extraterrestrials or intraterrestrials. That's probably not a word you've never heard before, intraterrestrial. Still, others feel that they are communicating with ascended masters, humans who have achieved a level of enlightenment that allowed them to transcend physical life on Earth. We at IONS conducted a survey among channelers where participants were asked what they thought the source of their channeled information was, and they were able to choose as many options as they wanted. 56% of them said they thought that the channeling was their higher self, that they are accessing that space within them that is always there. 50% said the universal mind. So in Unity, for us, it's the same thing. 47% said the unconscious mind. Again, the same thing. We are all talking about the same thing in Unity. Fewer people reported channeling spirits, ETs, deities, or other entities. So ends that reading. So I bet you there were some phrases in there that were really new to you. There was quite a bit of language that had to do with a lot of parapsychology. If you understand what that means, parapsychology is the study of abnormal or psychic or unknown phenomena. We often hear of that phrase when we talk about ghost hunting, for example. Parapsychologists are ghost hunters. That's not the case. Parapsychologists are actually scientists that are looking into paranormal activity. Para meaning be above or beyond normal experience. So they're paranormal, beyond normal. They happen on a regular basis, but they seem to be something that we don't experience on most people in a regular time period. So they may have, some people are better at it than others. But as I said in the reading, that 90% said that they've had at least one experience in their life where they had an opportunity to channel. And we often don't talk about it. We often feel that it's a bunch of woo-woo, or that, we don't want to be labeled as somebody who's a little crazy. And based on the research that they've been doing at the Institute of Noetic Sciences and what Elena Wahhabi was talking about, she said that they know that these individuals are not dealing with a mental illness. This is a paranormal activity. That means that it is an activity that happens in the world. It's just something we don't understand yet. And it's beyond our understanding. So that's why they study it in this way. And they want to see in a scientific way what's really happening to these individuals when they are channeling. So I'd like to go back to the top again to talk about channeling. Channeling is the process of revealing information and energy not limited by our conventional notions of space and time that can appear receptive or expressive. So that means that we are experiencing information that is not coming from our brain, that would be expressive. And we're not bringing it in with our normal senses. So we're not bringing it in we don't necessarily hear it, although some people do. We don't taste it. We don't feel it. Some people do. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But it just means that it's beyond something that we normally would consider normal. And there really is no normative, because she talked about being on the spectrum. It is a lot of information. You can have a little bit of experience, or you can be really experienced in this. So channeling is one of those things. And in essence, what happens when you're a channeler? When you've opened up the channel, that means you're kind of like a radio station that's tuned in. When you're when you're a radio, if you were a radio and you wanted to listen to country music, you couldn't go to a rock station. You couldn't tune it in there and hear country music because that is specifically tuned in to a rock station where it plays rock music. So if you wanted to tune in to country music, you have to change the channel. You have to go back to that area where they play country music. Channeling is kind of the same thing, that you are honing in to information that is available. You're opening up the channel and allowing that information to come through you. And that's what channelers do. And so she's talking about that as the ability to bring in information that would not be normally accessed through your senses unless that's the way you channel. Or it's not something that you might experience on a day-to-day basis. It's something that may be something you turn on or off. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about that too. Before I move forward with my talk, though, I'd like to share some slides with you. So when you think about paranormal, or when you think about channeling, you might think about something like this. That you see somebody sitting around a table. It was just some weird looking woman with her eyes all painted black, and everybody's got their hands on the table. And not that that doesn't happen. It does happen, and I've experienced it. But this was what you might think a channeling episode or experience might look like. Because this is what we have been taught in our society to think about when we talk about mediumship or psychic abilities, or when we talk about channeling or any of those things. This is what we think of. Now, there are lots of contemporary channelers who are doing the work out there that you might see on YouTube, or you might see on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. One of the first ones that you probably have heard of is Esther Hicks. Esther Hicks did a lot of information at the beginning, years and years ago, when she talked about the power of, she talked about the law of attraction, and they wrote the book about that, her and her husband, Jerry. And she channels the entities, because it's more than one, and they named themselves Abraham. And so Abraham works through her and speaks to everyone and gives information and knowledge. She opens herself up to allow this information to come through her, and she becomes the voice for Abraham. The guy here on the right, his name is Daryl Anka, and he channels Bashar. And Bashar, again, the same way, is an entity that transcends individualism. So there's more than one consciousness there. But he's named it Bashar, or the name was Bashar, is the name that they name it. And he channels the information to that group of entities. And I'm not sure that they're different. I'm just telling you what they do. Here in the Pacific Northwest, you might know who JZ Knight is. JZ Knight, she is in here in Yelm, right down the street. She has a beautiful compound, and my son just delivered to her compound just the other day. He works for Amazon. So JZ Knight, she channels Ramsa, and she's been doing it a long time. And again, Ramsa, though, is a different entity and is not the same as Esther or Abraham, as Abraham or Bashar. And then finally, these are just a few that I pulled up. You have Neale Donald Walsch. Now, Neale Donald Walsch doesn't say that he channels an entity. He spoke with God, and he wrote several different books based on the information he received from God. Conversations with God is his book. They are excellent books. I love each and every one. But so it's a different type of channeling. He speaks directly with God, and he gets information about God in that way. This is Elena Wahabe, and she is a channeler. Does she look like a channeler? No, she's a naturopath. She's a master. She has a master's in clinical research, and she's the director of research at IONS. So apparently I put a typo there. And so she also channels, and she comes from a long line of individuals who channels. And she's what's called a trance channel. If you're not familiar with that, a trance channel is someone who goes into a trance in a meditative state and allows this information to come through. And then finally, this woman right here looks like my aunt. Her name is Christine Bush, and she is the author of the book that we are going to be reading, Understanding Your Soul, The Channeled Wisdom of Jesus. So some of you have started reading the book. Some of you are just thinking about it. Some of you probably are like, I don't even know if I want to read this book because I don't know anything about channeling, or channeling's too woo-woo, or I don't believe in that, or whatever. That's absolutely fine, because we know here in Unity that all belief systems. Oh, did anybody else see the other picture? Okay. Anyway, did you all get to see Helena, a picture of her? All right, let me show her again. Let me see. Did you get to see Neale Donald Walsch? Now, what the heck is going on? Let's try that again. Oh my goodness.
That's the seance table, right?
You only had the seance one?
Right.
Oh, okay. Can you see it now? Okay. This is Esther Hicks and Abraham. This is Jay Z Knight and Ramsa. This is Neale Donald Walsch in Conversations with God. This is Daryl Anka, and he channels Bashar. So you may have seen him. He does a lot on Facebook and things like that. You don't see as much Jay Z Knight, but she is still doing things, and she's still here in the Pacific Northwest doing her Ramsa thing. Esther and Jerry Hicks. Jerry passed away, and so it's just Esther now. And she channels Abraham, and Neale Donald Walsch is in Oregon, actually, or I think he might have moved to California. But anyway, he's here on the West Coast, and he has conversations with God. All right, everybody sees that. Great. Okay. Now, can you see Elena Wabe? Still can't? Wow. Wow. My slides are not working. Why are they not working? It's never happened before. Now can you see Elena Wahabe? Okay. This is my last slide. Hopefully, when we get to our meditation, you'll still be able to see it. All right. So she's a naturopath. She is a researcher. She's the one at the Institute of Noetic Sciences, and she's the director of research for the Institute of Noetic Sciences, and they are located in California. And this one, who I said looks like my aunt, is the one who is writing the book, who wrote the book that we're going to be talking about, Understanding Your Soul, The Channeled Wisdom of Jesus. All right. Everybody saw the pictures. Great. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know what's happening. All right. So we're going to be talking about that, what it means. We're going to be talking about what it is to channel, why I am interested in this, why it kind of sparked my interest, and the fact that it came through Unity, the book that we chose to read, Understanding Your Soul, The Channeled Wisdom of Jesus, came through Unity. It's a Unity published book. And so I was kind of shocked, and I was like, wow, they're going to do channeling. And the reason I am really excited about channeling and going into that a little bit more in depth, because many of you know me, have known me before I came to Unity of Tacoma, and they know that I was an interim minister at a spiritualist church for 2 years. So what is a spiritualist church, you ask? I will tell you. A spiritualist church, when you go back to that first one at the very beginning, where everybody's sitting around a table and they have their hands on the table, that's how spiritualism started. Spiritualism was a movement of mediumship and psychic phenomena, and they learn how to speak to those who have passed on, to speak to the entities or the energy around, and to be able to give readings. So I was at a spiritualist church and I was guiding this organization. I had taken all the classes and to become a minister there. I never did become a minister in the spiritualist church, but I did take all the classes to become one. And so I just wanted to let you know why this interests me, because I have seen it with my own eyes, and experienced it with my own body. And I've had it, I've been witnessed it in people that were ministers within the church, those people who were lay people in the church who could speak and channel and have all the psychic ability. And I was excited about it, scared at first, because it's like, what the heck is going on? And couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it. Like, I'm experiencing these things firsthand. And I have never had an experience quite the same. And it changed my worldview as to what can and will happen. And so when I talk about this when you take this in with an open mind and an open heart, as we do here at Unity, because that's what we do, we take in all these different ideas and we look at it with discernment. So discernment is a kind of a copy. It's a combination of wisdom and judgment. So we bring in the wisdom that we have, that we hold in our hearts in unity. Well, we also use our mind in judgment and go, I'm going to look at this further. I want to know more about this, but I'm not going to make a decision right away as to what's happening. So I approached it with discernment. It's like, okay, so I'm going to be open-minded. I'm going to allow this to happen, and I'm going to move through it as spirit guides me, which is what I wanted to do. So I did. I went into this. I was an associate minister at this church, and I was excited about it because it reminded me of what I already knew. And I think that's the biggest thing. When I was growing up, my family, the women in my family especially, had a real deep understanding of what it meant to be a channel, but in a way that I would never have called it that. So the women in my family for generations had been talking about experiences, but it was a kitchen table talk. It wasn't something we told the populace or the people or our neighbors. We didn't talk like that. It was something we talked about amongst ourselves, because we didn't really want to think that people think we were weird. We didn't want people to scare people off with our woo-woo. And so we would sit around the table and we'd hear these stories. So there's one story, for example, my grandmother, and she was standing in the kitchen doing her dishes and turned around, and her deceased mother was standing behind her. They had a conversation, and then she disappeared. And that is something she told that story her entire life, from the time that she was a young lady, because this happened when she was a young mother. And she continued to say it, tell people about it until she was 97 years old. And it happened, and she told people about it at the kitchen table, the family members, and then they let it go. That was it. We didn't talk about it again. Well, the next generation, I got to learn it, but that was over a pinochle table. We were playing pinochle, and you know how that is when you're playing cards. Anyway, so the next one was my aunt, and she had an experience that's very similar. After her sister died, my other aunt passed away. She was driving down the road, and all of a sudden she could hear her sister talking to her from the back seat of her car. And needless to say, she was freaked out. She pulled over on the highway and was really shaken because she had never had this experience, and she'd heard her mother tell her stories about the experience about her own mother, and she didn't know what to think about it. And I was like, okay. So there were just a number of little experiences like that, little teeny tiny things that they would talk about, and then they would just let it go. When I was younger, So it goes back to when I was little. And I was one of those kids, and I know you can probably imagine that I probably wasn't conventional. I wasn't a conventional child. So I would sit in the yard and I would talk to the trees and all the spirits and all the things that lived out there and all the animals. And I just commune with them. And I would have transcendent experiences where I could see psychedelic colors like a kaleidoscope. And all of this would happen while I was in this state. And I thought it was just my imagination. And my teacher in the spiritualist movement said there is not much difference between imagination and psychic ability, because imagination is how your brain processes and understands what's happening that's beyond thought that you can't explain. So all of the experiences that I had as a child were normal for someone who is in touch with the channel. I didn't think of it that way. I thought I was weird. So I didn't talk about it. I'd have these transcendent type experiences. And then I would move around, I'd get on my bike and ride and play with my friends just like everyone else. So I didn't think it was abnormal until I started seeing a therapist when I was, a teenager. And then, of course, therapy sometimes can be great and sometimes it can be oppressive. And it's really stopped what it was that I could have created in my life. Anyway, so when I went into the spiritualist church, I was being reintroduced to something I already knew in my heart, something that I'd already experienced, and what I didn't realize was going on still in my life. I'm a very empathetic person. So that means that I am very in touch with someone else's feelings. I am very in touch with their experience. But I didn't realize that I was having these empathetic experiences that were somatic in nature. So I can pick up on other people's energy. I can pick up on other people's emotions. I can anticipate what they're going to do. I can feel how they're feeling. And I didn't understand that I wasn't picking up my own, that wasn't my own emotion. It wasn't coming from my body. It was coming from them. So I have this ability to be an empath. That's what they call it in the world, in the spiritualist world. I'm an empath and I pick up things in that way. So that makes it so when I am out with the trees, I can feel the energy. I can feel the energy of the plants, and I can commune with them in a different way. And so it is weird. And so I'm being really vulnerable today, and I wanted to talk about that with you, so you can say, "Wow, my minister is really strange," but it's okay. It's unity, and so it's okay to be strange. But channeling is super, super old. It's not something that my family is the only people that have experienced it. And if you have family, especially women, not that I'm not discounting men's experiences, because there are lots of great spiritualists and mediums that are men. Don't get me wrong. But it often happens to women. And so, especially the women in your family have told stories about things that are kind of strange and weird, and you kind of just go, well, that's just grandma's weird story. Go back and think about it again, because it could have been an experience that was paranormal, meaning that it was transcendent of our normative experiences, but are valid and actually happened. We want to discard that because we often think, especially in traditional and conservative religions, are afraid of the idea of channeling because they feel that they're channeling entities that are evil. And that's not the case. The idea of being a channel means that you have the choice and the authority to choose who you speak to and who you want to allow in. There is no way that anyone can get through to you or use you unless you give them permission to do it. You have to be strong in your own faith, and you have to be willing to say, no, I'm not going to hear that voice. So oftentimes when you're in a channeling type state, we may think something that we think may have come from our source, that spirit within. It's like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. And we hear that, we may hear that in our minds, or that's not right, or you're being stupid. Those kinds of voices, those aren't the kind of channeling voices that we're talking about. We're talking about truth. And we at Unity know and cultivate the truth. We know what the difference is between the negativity in our minds and the truth. And so when you are channeling that essence that is the truth, that spirit, that universal consciousness that is out there for everyone to access, and everyone has their unique way of expressing, and you know your truth. But when you start hearing the negativity and people that negativity that people are afraid of, that is your own psyche. That's your own consciousness. So be aware of that. If you're thinking, oh, channeling is a terrible thing, we know here at Unity that the evil is something that we need to deny. That it is a human experience that we all have, that we've all witnessed in the world, but we need to overshadow that with our love and light. And that's how we banish it. So when we understand that we have control over anything that happens to us in any circumstance, then we know that this type of idea is not a threat. So they've been talking about channeling for years. Channeling has been something that religions have been experiencing, and people throughout history have experiencing and had experience, even in the Christian church, even in the New and Old Testaments. So when you have somebody who comes in and says, well, we don't talk about that because psychic ability is something we don't talk about. Well, in the Old Testament, in the Hebrew Bible, in Joel 2:28, it says, I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy, your old men will dream dreams, and your young men will see visions. In the New Testament, Paul, the Apostle Paul, says, Paul describes himself as a vessel for Christ, writing, it is no longer I who live, but Christ that lives in me. He is talking about the same thing that Joel was talking about in the Old Testament, that we are opening ourselves to that divine essence and opening ourselves as a channel to be able to be open to that mystical idea of being the God essence in the world. I hope that makes sense. The mystics throughout time, so at the end of the 19th and the beginning of the 20th century, there were people out there, scientists, who were actually looking into mysticism as a true thing that's happening in the world. And at the time where there were a lot of charlatans doing seances and doing all kinds of things that had nothing to do with what real spiritualism was about. They were studying it. And even the most skeptical of researchers, like William James, looked into mystical experiences and knew and met people who were the real deal. There was no way that they could be fake. And they've been studying it ever since, and the Institute of Noetic Sciences still does that. To this day, uses rigorous scientific research to be able to find what is causing this. And they are finding that it happens more and more and more. And the more we talk about it, the more we allow it, the more we see it. Isn't that the way it is, though? It's like when you buy a red car, you have the most unique red you've ever seen in your life. And you're like, oh, I love this red car. No one in the world has this color ever. And then you're riding down the road, and all of a sudden you see that same red car. And you're like, wow, I didn't know anybody else had a car. And then all of a sudden you see another one. It's not because they didn't exist. It's because you didn't notice it before. Now, because you have focus on this beautiful red car, you start seeing your car out there in the world. So it's the same thing with this phenomenon. When we start to open our minds to it and our hearts to it, and we open ourselves to it, then we start seeing it more and more. Maybe we start experiencing it more and more. Maybe we stop. Abraham Maslow used to say, he would say, well, there are people out there in the world that have these experiences, but they don't acknowledge them. He says most people have experiences that they cannot explain. They just don't acknowledge them. So what's happening to us when we channel is we're just allowing what happens to us each and every day. We just don't notice it. So for example, when you're in meditation and you are receiving that love and light and that beautiful essence that comes through you, what are you experiencing? You have opened up the channel. I think it was Patricia who called it like a straw. You know, it's like when you're sucking in liquid through a straw. It comes through you, that allows that essence to come through you like you were hollow, like a straw. And when you're in meditation, when you're in prayer, you allow this to come up. And when we're doing that, it's not just we're experiencing that euphoria that comes from meditation. And that does happen too. And that's a beautiful thing. But sometimes we get insights and little nudges, or we get information that wasn't there before, or maybe we solved a problem that all of a sudden it's like, oh, I have an aha moment. Or synchronicities in the world. When we have something, we're thinking about something and all of a sudden it shows up in our lives and we're like, what the heck happened here? That happens on a daily basis. And we all experience it at some level. But like Abraham Maslow said, sometimes we don't acknowledge it. And so we just move about our day, whether we don't want to know or we don't have time or something. Our brains are so busy at trying to grasp what it is, to problem solve and to grasp reality, that they're not seeing that reality is beyond the physical world. Our brains are only good at identifying the physical world. Our senses are here so we can start to feel the table, or we can hear the sounds, or you can see me talking on the screen. That is the brain's reality. And when you close your eyes and you visualize yourself doing something, that is also the brain's reality, because it only understands what it is that you are putting in, the sensations, the visualization, all of that information, everything has to do with the senses. That's what the brain works with. However, there is a beautiful part of the brain that doesn't get accessed. And that, well, it gets accessed, but we don't acknowledge it on the conscious level. And that's the part of us that senses things that we can't hear, see, or touch. So have you ever been in a situation where you feel somebody staring at you? You know, somebody from behind you is staring at you and you feel that? Maybe you feel like on the back of your neck, you get your hair stand up, or maybe the hairs on your arm, or you get goosebumps or something, and you just know that somebody's staring at you. You turn around and sure enough, there's somebody staring at you. It's kind of the same way. In that essence, you are tapping into something larger than yourself, larger than what your brain can sense. And there is part of you, whether that be your heart or something that we have not identified yet, that we have access to. Animals have access to it. They have access to it all the time. They don't have watches. They don't have computers. They don't have books. They don't have language. Language like ours anyway. They don't have things to tell them what time it is during the day, other than the cycles of the moon and the cycles of the sun, and knowing the cycles of the earth and seasons. They know that. They don't have to be told that. Why is that? Because they have intuition. They have instinct. And we also have that. We just don't have it. We don't acknowledge it. We say, I think, therefore I am. No, I am, therefore I think. I am, therefore I experience. It's the other way around. So when we're talking about channeling, when we're talking about this book that we're going to be reading, we are talking about the idea of being open to bringing in information that is always available, always there. We're just opening ourselves up to experiencing it. We're allowing that information to come to us through our hearts, through our spirits, through whatever it is you want to name it, whether you are a medium or a psychic or you're just a regular old person that likes to sit in the yard and talk to the birds, whatever it is, that is absolutely the way that spirit is speaking through you. And everyone is different. And that's why here at Unity that we can accept things like channeling and mediumship and psychic ability as something that actually really happens, because prayer happens for people, meditation happens for people. People in different religions pray 5 times a day, or they go to mass, or they do other things. We accept that as their truth. We can accept channeling as someone's truth. And in this book, we're going to be talking about it more. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit more today, so you had a better, good understanding of, we're not going to ask you to do anything weird. We're just exploring something brand new, exploring an idea that may seem weird or unknown to you. That's great. We're just going to be talking about it. We're going to learn about it. We can discern, use our wisdom and our judgment as to whether that's something that we like or something that we're not really into. And that's absolutely okay, because that's the way Unity is. We can sit next to somebody who is a Jewish Buddhist, and we can sit next to somebody who's an atheist or an agnostic and still be part of Unity. That's the beauty of who we are. And so we're going to be talking about that more in Faith in Action. And for those of you who listened to me talk today, I might have sounded different than I normally do. It's because I didn't use my script. I just allowed. One of the people that taught me spiritualism is not someone you think would be a spiritualist, and that would be Wayne Dyer. Wayne Dyer was a speaker. If you know who Wayne Dyer was, he was an author and a speaker and just a really, really cool guy. And he was great at speaking. And he would always say, I don't write, I write it out ahead of time, but I don't have a script when I walk on that stage. Because it's not about the script. It's about how spirit is talking through you. And so most Sundays I have notes, or I have something to go with. And yes, I did have the reading, but I didn't have anything I was going to specifically say today, because I wanted you all to see what the difference between being on like when you're doing a script, and when you are allowing spirit to speak through you. And it may not look that much that different, but it is. And it's a different experience for me, because I am more energized and uplifted as I allow this to happen, as opposed to trying to stay with a script. So there you go, guys. Now you know a little bit more about spiritualism, about me, about what happens in the world when you channel. And we can talk about that more after our meditation. So now it's meditation time. So I hope, please let me know if you cannot hear it, because I don't know what's going on with my slides today. So make yourself comfortable. If you're sitting in a chair, place your feet flat on the floor. Or you can sit back on the surface that you're on. Put your feet up and just relax. Allow your hands to soften in your lap. Gently close your eyes or soften your gaze, whichever feels comfortable for you. This is your time. Take a slow, deep breath in and let it go. And again, breathe in, bringing in peace, and exhaling, releasing all the tension in your body, mind, and spirit. One more time, breathe in light. And exhale everything that you don't need right now. Allow your body to relax. Allow your mind to soften. And let your heart be open. Imagine that you have roots that are extending down from the soles of your feet deep into the earth. These roots ground you, connect you, and hold you steady. Feel the support of the earth beneath you. You are safe. You are held. You are supported. Now bring your awareness to the crown of your head. Picture a gentle stream of light flowing down from above. It's pure, radiating, divine. It enters at the crown of your head, flowing through your mind, your throat, your heart, and into your whole being. You are a channel, open from above, grounded from below. Imagine yourself as a clear, open vessel. With each breath, you release any clutter, any tension, any old thoughts, any doubts. With each breath, you open more fully to the presence of Spirit. As you inhale, affirm to yourself, I am open to divine wisdom. And as you exhale, affirm, I release what does not serve. Inhale, I am open to divine love. Exhale, I release all fear. Inhale, I open to divine peace. Exhale, I release all resistance. And just rest now for a few breaths in the flow of life. Notice how Spirit moves through you, quiet, gentle, powerful. You do not have to force it. You just to simply allow it. Picture yourself as a radiant channel of light. The light flows in from above through you and radiates out in every direction. See this light flowing through your words, blessing every conversation. See it flowing through your hands, blessing every action. See it flowing through your heart, blessing every connection. You are a channel of divine love, wisdom, and truth. Now begin to bring your awareness back to your body, back to the space and time. You still feel the flowing of that love and peace and wisdom in your body. There are no limitations, no blockages. It flows through you, healing you and allowing you to be the channel for this love in the world. You can feel your feet grounded on the earth or supported by the surface that you're on. And you begin to notice your breath again, moving in and out of your chest. And as you return, just know that this channel remains open. You carry spirit within you to do all that you do. Take one more deep breath and let it go. Again, bringing your awareness more and more to your body. One more deep breath. And exhale. And when you're ready, you can gently open your eyes and bring your awareness back to your space. And so it is. Amen. All right, so let's close this as we're coming out of meditation with a prayer. So let's pray. Infinite Spirit, we open ourselves to be clear and to be open and to be channels for your wisdom, your love, and your truth. We release any fear, any doubt that we may have or will have, and we align with that Christ consciousness within. We get connected with that truth that is a source of our being. May our thoughts and our actions and our interactions today be entered in with peace and joy and compassion and wholeness, and allow us to be this within the world as we move this week. We're so grateful for this opportunity, and so it is. Amen.